Ready? He took my hand and my pulse spiked. I nodded. My heart was already thundering in my chest. He twisted the knob and we stepped inside. What we saw made the floor drop out from beneath me. A semi-naked Sophia tangled up with a very familiar guy in a way that left no room for doubt. Sophia? Ryan? The room spun. Everything I thought I knew shattered right in front of me. My vision was getting blurred. I was about to collapse if it weren't for JUNGKOOK, who held my hand tightly, telling me through his touch that he was there. "Oh, look who's here." She smirked, and I couldn't believe this was my sister. She got off Ryan, leaving him reeling in horror, and swayed her way to us, not caring a bit that she was half naked, just in her two-piece. "Mr. and Mrs. John." Ryan fixed his pants and quickly went outside casually, acting as they weren't just caught cheating. I couldn't even bring myself to look at him. My heart refused to believe it was the same Ryan that I loved. "So this is what you were doing all this while, huh?" I said. His voice strangely calm, could only listen to his voice. Everything else was blurred for me. "Care to explain?" Well, look who we have here. John JUNGKOOK with his extremely high morals and his replacement wife. Just answer the damn question." "Ah, are you mad, JUNGKOOkie?" She faked awed, completely ignoring me, and JUNGKOOK only rolled his eyes. "Are you mad I couldn't wait until marriage and get all dirty just like you suggested? Are you mad because I didn't want to commit to an exclusive relationship?" "Mad? No, Sophia. Mad would imply I actually still care. I'm just impressed by your commitment to downgrade." "Well, you cared enough to follow me, JUNGKOOkie, and even brought this stupid baboon along who would have never figured it out that I was fucking her boyfriend behind her back." Her eyes bored into me, and I struggled to breathe. I shouldn't have come here. "Sophia, shut up," he warned, but Sophia continued, thinking JUNGKOOK would never do anything to her. "You know why Ryan disappeared on your last birthday? Yes, you guessed it. He was fucking me." "Fucking shut up, you... Don't you dare a say word." "Or what?" she challenged, raising her brows, contempt evident in her voice. "Don't act like you wouldn't throw yourself at me if I bat a single eye at you. Last time I checked, you were the one desperate to get into my pants. You were so desperate that you couldn't wait until the wedding, so you decided to fuck with the nearest thing possible. Am I right or am I right?" By the time JUNGKOOK finished, Sophia was shaking in anger. "I get what I want. Now, get the fuck out of here. We don't wish to stay here either. Come, YN, let's go." He tugged on my arms, and I was quick to follow him, only if Sophia didn't stop us again. She stood in front of me, looking directly into my eye. It was like seeing a stranger in the face of the sister I grew up with. "He's never going to love you. He's going to leave you just like Ryan did. He only loves me. You'll always be alone and miserable." "Don't listen to her, let's go." He pulled my hands and began to walk faster, while Sophia followed us like a deranged bitch. "He's going to fuck other girls behind your back, YN, just like Ryan did. Your dear husband is going to bring me over one day to your home and fuck me right in front of me. You hear that? Just a matter of time, and I'm going to have your husband between my legs. Please stop, Sophia. Please just stop. Not JUNGKOOK. Don't take him away. I wished I could tell her. You'll die alone." A loud crack sliced through the air, and before I could process what had happened, Sophia crumpled to the ground, shock written all over her face, red marks blooming on her skin. "I didn't care, but you fucking crossed the line." He roared, and I almost trembled at how furious he was. "Don't you fucking see that she is traumatized? Are you that insane? You fucking? Is sex all you think about?" Ryan might have heard the commotion, cause the next minute he was by Sophia's side helping her get stable. "How dare you hit he?" A punch landed square on his face, which sent him flying backwards. "That's for cheating on Ryan, you scumbag," he yelled, and Ryan struggled to sit. "If any one of you spoke a thing about Ryan, you'll face my wrath, and what you have seen so far is just a glimpse of it. You'll regret if I ever had my way with you, so stay the fuck away from us." The next thing I knew, we were already in the car. I looked out of the window, too lost to say anything. I could feel JUNGKOOK's eyes on me from time to time. He stopped the car, which pulled me out of the trance. It wasn't the mansion, it was the beach. Thought we could stay here for a while. He tried to smile, and I didn't reply with anything. Honestly, I just wanted to go home and sleep. My heart couldn't take anymore. He opened the passenger door and I looked at him with tired, drowsy eyes. "Give me your hand," he whispered softly, and I weakly gave him my hand. He held it like it was the most delicate thing in the world. "Come, let's have a little walk here." He took me to the shore and we walked hand in hands. The waves touched our feet as we got lost in the calm of the ocean, the chill of the night, the hum of the breeze, and the occasional touch of the waves. "You ever wonder how we ended up here?" His voice was soft, almost reflective. The sound of the waves filled the silence between us, but his question lingered in the air. I didn't respond. I was too caught up in my own thoughts, too tired to even try. "I mean, we were supposed to have completely different lives. You with Ryan, me with Sophia." He trailed off, his grip on my hand tightening just slightly. "But now we're here, in this strange mess because they chose to throw it all away." I glanced at him. His expression was unreadable as he stared out at the ocean. It wasn't the first time the thought had crossed my mind, but hearing him say it made it feel heavier somehow, like the weight of it was finally sinking in. "I don't know what happens next. I don't even know what we're supposed to do about us." He paused, his eyes flickering toward me. I swallowed hard. My throat turned tight and I couldn't bring myself to speak. I didn't know what to say either, but if there's one thing I'm sure of, it's that we can't let what they did define us. We're more than their mistakes, YN. There was a sincerity in his voice that made me look at him, the weight of his words settling into my chest. I wanted to believe him, to trust that there was something more than this hurt, but it felt impossible. "You know, the first time I got my heart broken, I was 15. He suddenly switched gears, a small smile tugging at the corner of his mouth as he glanced away, as if embarrassed by the memory. "Her name was Jiwoo, and I thought she was the one, until she dumped me in the middle of our school cafeteria." I blinked, surprised by the sudden change in topic. He chuckled, scratching the back of his neck. "That was cute." A thought stumbled before it quickly vanished. In front of everyone. It was brutal. She told me she was going to date someone else because I was too serious. I was crushed. He grinned, shaking his head. But now when I look back, I just laugh. I mean, seriously? Too serious? I was 15. I thought dating was just sitting together at lunch and texting goodnight. Despite myself, I felt a small smile tug at my lips, the first in what felt like days. It was a ridiculous story, but somehow it made the tension in my chest loosen, even if just for a moment. I guess what I'm trying to say is things hurt like hell in that moment, but one day there'll be just another embarrassing story. He looked at me then, his gaze soft and warm. "Maybe we'll laugh about this one day too, you know? Maybe. Oh, it's past 1 already." He checked the time on his phone and I heaved a sigh. "Ready to go home, Mrs. John?" I weakly smiled with a nod, and he beamed at me. Hands in hands, we walked to the car. "Jungkook," I whispered as he got into the driver's seat, glancing sideways. "Thanks for bringing me here." "Anytime, Mrs. John." He smirked and drove us home. The days after that passed in the same haze. No matter how hard I tried to forget that night, it wouldn't fade. I felt strangely disconnected, but slowly and gradually the fog started to lift. Come to think of it, I really had missed so many signs. Sophia coming home late, often drunk. Ryan's change in attitude, and those secretive smiles they shared around me, which I'd always ignored. This had been in the works for months, and Jungkook and I were just the unlucky ones, caught in the middle. Speaking of Jungkook, it has been a month since our marriage, and well, things have changed for the better. We started off as a vengeful, broken couple hoping to hate each other till the end of time, but now what we felt for each other was far from hate. This stupid tie, I swear I'm going to burn it. I heard his frustrated banter from the kitchen. "Young master, let me help you." "Are you a stylist?" He barked, and I assumed Jisuk was on the receiving end of this. "No, right? Then go away." I narrowed my eyebrows and followed his voice. Jungkook was standing there struggling with a tie, and Jisuk was standing next to him with his head down. What's going on here? I placed the tongues on a table and looked at them confused. Jisuk, "Young master can't tie a tie, and he won't let me help him," he said carefully while his head, but Jungkook looked at him like he committed a crime. I stifled a laugh and looked at them, having a silent war of their own. "Jisuk, go have your breakfast in your quarters." I'd deal with him. I smiled at him, and Jisuk was gone in seconds, practically vanishing from his strict boss. Go easy on him, Jungkook. He is just a butler. I shook my head and Jungkook rolled his eyes. He can't even tie a tie. He threw his hands in the air and I stood in front of him while he desperately looked at his own tie. So can't you? I joked and he made a face at me. You're such a big baby, Jungkook, I whispered as I began to tie his tie. He looked carefully at my hands doing magic, often stealing glances at me. There you go, piece of cake. I patted his chest as I fixed his tie and he smiled at it. You're wonderful, Mrs. John, he whispered with a small smirk playing on his lips. I bit back a smile. I wish I could say the same about you, I joked again, trying to make a distance, but he pulled me to his chest. My hands landed on his chest, and he expertly placed his hands on my waist. I'll have to do something about that mouth of yours, he whispered into my ears, and I felt a chill run down my spine. What do you suggest? Maybe I should get you a zipper for it. I smirked, looking up at him with mock innocence, but his expression didn't change, still that dangerously playful smirk. Oh, a zipper, huh? That's your big plan? He tilted his head, eyes narrowing a little, and I could see the challenge dancing in them. Well, you asked for a suggestion, and I gave one. I shrugged, trying to act nonchalant, though my heart was pounding like crazy. He always had that effect on me when he got this close. I kept my voice light, hoping he wouldn't notice. You know, there are better ways to keep you quiet. His voice dropped a notch, and before I could reply, he leaned in closer, too close. His breath brushed my cheek, sending more chills down my spine. Ah, have breakfast to finish, I muttered, trying to wriggle out of his hold, but his grip on my waist tightened slightly. Oh no, Mrs. John, he chuckled, lowering his lips dangerously close to my ear. You're not getting away that easily this time. What are you thinking of using that tie for anything other than wearing, especially considering how well that was going? I teased, raising an eyebrow as I looked at him, trying to act like his closeness wasn't making my knees weak. Careful, YN. His grin widened as his hand slid down to my hips. You're giving me ideas. Ideas you won't be able to handle, Mr. John. I winked, stepping back just before he could make his next move, leaving him standing there, smirking and speechless for once. We'll see about that, he muttered, shaking his head with a laugh as I made a quick escape back to the kitchen. The entire breakfast there was a feeling between us that I couldn't shake. I kept sneaking glances at him, and every time I did, I felt those ridiculous butterflies in my stomach. Everything about him was just so different, in a good way, that it made me want to scream. Looks like you're planning to have me for breakfast today, he smirked. This was so out of blue that I nearly choked on my water. What gave you that impression? I tried very hard to act nonchalantly, but I knew he saw through me. Well, for starters, you were practically ogling at me for 15 minutes straight. No, I wasn't. I was just... You were just? He raised an eyebrow. The toot was just nothing, just. I stuttered while Jungkook kept boring his eyes at me, albeit playfully. Just have your damn breakfast, Jungkook. You're running late for work. I groaned and watched him bark a laugh at me. You're so cute, oh my god. He kept laughing while I jutted my lips out in a pout. I fake laughed, and this made him laugh even harder. You know what, you keep laughing at me. I'll just eat somewhere else. I picked my plate, but there was no stopping to his laughing spree. Hey, he said between his laughs as he saw me stomping out of the dining room. Why and come here? Just have your goddamn breakfast, Jungkook, and goodbye, I yelled at him. Thank God he spared me, and after a while the laughs died down. I heard the car engine whir, and I stood on the balcony watching him enter the car. Enjoy your day, dear hubby, I whispered, smiling, and if the heavens heard me, he looked up at me and mouthed, Enjoy your day, wifey. Every other day we would plan a movie night after one of us would try cooking something. Jungkook thought it was a good way to bond now that we were in our ways, trying and wanting to further our relationship. It was Jungkook's turn to cook today, and from the looks of it, he was minutes away from setting the whole kitchen on fire. The oven dinged and we excitedly ran to check the lasagna, but to our horror, it's burnt, Jungkook announced, and I stopped mid-track. Oh God, please no. I also sighed and looked around at the whole kitchen looking like a mess. After all this mess, still a burnt lasagna? We can try making it again. What do you say? He tried to smile, but I just sighed again. No, thank you. You and I are going to clean this first, and then we can order takeout. But I don't want to clean. He pouted with his arms crossed. Then you should have not burnt the lasagna. I didn't burn it. The oven did. Oh, really now? Yeah, I just followed what you said. Bake it on 375 degrees Celsius for 30 minutes. As soon as these words left his mouth, my eyes widened in horror. 365 what? 365 Celsius. God, I wanted to bang my head against the wall. I said 365 Fahrenheit, you blethering idiot. That's 190 Celsius. Oh, he looked away while I kept reeling from his stupidity. Well, I didn't know. Never used that thing before. Haha. You should have told me then. S'mon, YN. Just leave it. How about we order lasagna from your favorite place? How about we order someone that could also clean this mess? I crossed my arms with an eye roll. That can also be arranged. He nodded his head obediently and took me out of the kitchen to the living room. Just stay here and give me 10 minutes. I sighed and sat down on the couch. We were supposed to start our movie 10 minutes ago if JUNGKOOK hadn't stirred up a disaster in the kitchen. In exactly 10 minutes, to my sheer surprise, he was by my side again, and I was gaping at him like he had grown another head. He had somehow managed to get lasagna, chicken popcorn, and even a pizza for us. How did you even manage to get everything? I said, completely surprised. I have my ways. He smirked while he dished out the lasagna and gave my a plate. What about the kitchen? Don't worry, it's been taken care of. All right, that was ridiculously fast. So let's begin, shall we? He beamed at me and I smiled, leaning my head against his shoulder. The movie was on and they were settled in, enjoying their food. At some point, JUNGKOOK got up and brought in some drinks. YN felt tipsy after just a few sips, but JUNGKOOK was still going strong. They were watching The Greatest Showman, her favorite. She always had a thing for 𝐓𝐇𝐄 and Zendaya's chemistry on screen. Then it hit, the part that never failed to leave her breathless. That moment when Zack and Zendaya finally hold hands after all that pining. YN swore she could feel herself right there in the scene, and beside her, JUNGKOOK was watching it all unfold too. His eyes, those big doe eyes of his, were locked on the screen, completely immersed. But something changed when he felt her gaze. He turned, meeting her eyes with a softness that caught her off guard. Her stomach did this weird flip. She wasn't sure if it was the alcohol or something else entirely. They stared at each other for a while. There was something in his eyes, something that pulled her in closer. She didn't know if it was her or her tipsy brain making the call, but before she knew it, their faces were inches apart, and then his lips were on hers, soft and warm. A million butterflies burst in her chest, and she was suddenly floating, completely lost in the moment. It felt like nothing else mattered. Only him. Only JUNGKOOK. Only her husband. She pulled away just enough to cup his face, still not sure if this was real or some drunken daydream. But then his lips were on hers again, and there was no way this was just in her head. Is this real? Are we really kissing? She whispered, barely pulling back, her words brushing against his lips. She could feel him smile. Yes, my love, it's real. His voice was low, and the way he said love made her heart stutter. Did he really just call her that? But you love Sophia, you shouldn't be kissing me. She narrowed her eyes at him, a drunken pointer finger poking at his chest. Sophia's dead to me, YN. I don't feel a thing for her. I only want you. You're the only one for me. Today, tomorrow, and forever. I want it all with you. Good, because I also want that, she said with a tiny nod. JUNGKOOK chuckled and left a tender kiss at her cheeks. He wrapped his arms around her and pulled her against his chest. She felt her eyelids get heavy, her mind already giving in to sleep. JUNGKOOkie, the nickname slipped, and she felt JUNGKOOK breath hitch for a second. Yes, baby. Will I remember this tomorrow? I hope you do, because I can't wait to make you all mine in every possible way. What does that mean? You'll know. He stroked her back, and she was already halfway to dreamland. And just like that, sleep enveloped her. JUNGKOOK kept looking at her with a fond gaze. He didn't know how he could fall heads over heels for someone that he swore to hate for life. He didn't know how YN managed to become an irreplaceable part of his life. All this just in a span of a month. If you're the reward after every suffering, then I gladly take a few more. He lifted her in his arms and took her to his room, placing her right next to him. He covered her with the duvet and was about to join when his phone started ringing with notifications. He quickly tried to mute the notification, but what he saw had his eyes fall out of sockets. The news outlets were reporting something. Sex tapes leaked of Sophia Kim, internet sensation and the daughter of Kim Min-joon, owner and CEO of Paradise Hotels. Who is Sophia Kim? The 24-year-old who is rumored to have eloped with her boyfriend the night before her wedding to the CEO of John Enterprises. Intimate videos of Sophia Kim are trending everywhere. Click to know the story behind the famous model scandal. A bitter smirk crept onto Jungkook's face. Karma always comes to bite back in your ass.